today we are really warmly welcoming, the incredible Swathi Nelabhatla, and I hope, Swathi, I may have pronounced that correctly, but Swathi is the CEO and founder of SheJobs, which is a women-focused job portal. She's also the CEO of LiveMindz, which is namely around digital and engineering consultancy. We also feel additionally incredibly privileged to have Swathi and Vijaya and a number of other international ambassadors for Dial Global. And so without further ado, Swathi, I'd love to give you center stage here, invite everyone as well as we progress throughout the workshop today to ask questions, to keep the chat going. I'll make sure I moderate and ask the questions at the opportune and the right moments. But before we kick start, Swathi, I think it would just be really fantastic for everyone just to hear a little bit more about you and your personal background and how you came to be where you are today over in Texas, with a huge kind of international footprint and, growing business, which is really making a big change in the wider world. So love to hear a little bit more about you before we get into the nuts and the bolts of the presentation today.
Sure. Thank you so much, Leila. I want to start this with the full form of Dial Global, right? It's like, I'm sure there is a lot of thought process which have gone behind that, like diverse, inclusive, aspiration leaders. So I love that. And I think that's really important as well for all of us. So, and congratulations for your achievements. It's incredible, right? I've heard a lot about you. I also want to thank my colleague Vijaya and our mentor Campbell.
Yay, Campbell! I know that he's here as well. He's a bit of a guiding light, our Campbell, isn't he?
Yes, and applaud all the work which other ambassadors are doing, and it's a great opportunity for me to represent Texas on diversity organization like you, which I also feel like it's like it adds up in my purpose of living, right? Like to give back. So while I thank you for the opportunity, I want to let you know a little bit about my journey. I have done my undergrad in India, and I took over a job in sales, especially in engineering sales. Like we used to work with our managers or the clients here in North America. So we used to take some part of work back home, and it was kind of a business development role in one of the I would say one of a good organization out there, right? But then things were going good, but some of my personal challenges had led me to move to USA. So we moved here, and I really, with the kind of sales background I had, I was not able to get any opportunity in technology, and the challenges which I was going through as a mother of a special needs child has led me to start a small company of my own, which also makes me an entrepreneur, which will give me that freedom which I always wanted, and where I can work for myself, and that flexible work hours, everything led me to be more in like women inclusive environment in our organization as well, right? So we all say diversity starts from home, and the more diverse you are, the more inclusive you are as well, right? So we currently have at least 93% of our workforce in USA and North America are women. So yeah, and with my personal connections with the special needs community out there in North America as well as in India, and I also have some personal friends connections who as mothers or who as wives or even single women who are going through some challenges out there, has led me to start something like SheJobs, which is a job portal focusing more on women, right? So that is my journey altogether. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning from you and from everybody. So yeah, that's the start of my journey.
Thanks so much for sharing, Swathi. And I love how passionate you are about fostering lots of different areas of diversity, in particular for gender equality. And I think it's really important to remember, not only for the women, but also the men, that are here today, is that when you improve gender equality at the heart, you improve inclusion across the board. All of us have women in our families, in our circles, in our colleagues. And so actually, there will be, I'm sure, a number of people, within your own communities yourself who actually, this organization that Swathi is leading, and really driving towards positive change can make a true difference, to ultimately your organizations and obviously wider society. So thank you so much for that, Swathi. And I'm going to make you host, and so you can obviously share the screen there as well. I will just say to everyone, we've got both a chat function, also a Q&A. I will keep an eye on both of them and make sure I ask those questions. We've got a number of written in emails for questions for people who will be watching on demand additionally. So I'll make sure I ask those throughout, Swathi, or we can hold a number of those for the question and answer at the end of the session as well.
Sure, thank you, Leila. So I really don't believe in presentations, but I'll try to just put one in front of you, because I really think as women and as leaders, we really need to sit and brainstorm on like what can be done and all that. I love to hear your inputs as well, because if I share the presentation, it's only my inputs which you are hearing, but that's okay. Let's just go from there, and then you can stop me wherever needed and ask me questions, and I ask you questions too.
Perfect.
I think you have to enable me to share my screen.
For some reason, it's not actually allowing me to do that.
You can do the presentation, that's fine.
I think Rebecca's enabled it, because I can see a little box that says Swathi is now the host. So hopefully if you go ahead and try again there, Swathi, it should be working, I hope. And just whilst you're bringing up the presentation, and obviously take your time there, because I know there's nothing worse, is there, than being under pressure when you're trying to get tech to work. But, one of the other things, that I was exploring on SheJobs is I just think, it made me reflect actually upon this time of COVID and, considering the fact that, perhaps social mobility could be improved, given that everyone is kind of very remote now. And, when you have those who have children, parenthood, caring responsibilities, actually there is an increased need for flexibility, which, I think if there's one thing COVID has shown us, it is the fact that we can truly be flexible, a lot more flexible than we probably thought before, and certainly don't necessarily need to be sitting in an office from 9 to 5 every single day.
Yeah, so basically, what I wanted to show in this presentation is a couple of those points which are very much close to my heart and came out of my personal experience, right? As such, you are a leader of Dial Global, so you know what are the current challenges in the gender gap and all that. So, but I was just going through some reports, and this really got my attention, where it takes like 73,458 days to close any kind of economic gender gap, right? So, which is almost 200 plus years. Like I was just thinking, is it like, will that be possible? Will I be able to see that at any point of time? Um, so, so those two topics which I wanted to bring to all of our attention in this session is one, being women workforce, and given the COVID impact, how is it affecting as a mother or anybody in women to quit their jobs? As such, our global women workforce is anyways less in number, and women in tech are like really less, given Europe or North America or India. We are only talking about these three continents for now. So let's talk about the equal pay for equal work. In my personal experience, usually women are being hired on the frontline roles, right? When it comes to technology, it's always like client, dealing with the client, or sales roles, or front office roles, or whatever. Usually, when you have 100K to give to anybody, people will look for a male who they think is available all the time for them. So but in general, there's a general assumption that women are not available after the work hours. They cannot play active roles on the key decision factors, and or in the production support issues and all that. But in my experience, when I talk to women, the only one question they ask is it mandatory for us to work from 9 to 6? Can I just work from like 8 to 12 maybe, and can I just join back after 2 hours break, which is at 2 o'clock, and can I work until like 7 o'clock in the evening, right? So I think if you start allowing them to be little flexible in work environment, I'm sure they will outperform, right? That is what is very important for them, to take care of their family, children, and come back and work peacefully, rather than being at work continuously and thinking about them and all. It can influence their work to some extent. And then I really don't want to talk everything in the presentation here, but I strongly believe COVID has taken us back at least a decade now. And there is a report which generates that 65 billion loss in economic activities happened. And why is this happening in this manner? So I want to just talk about those women. Why do you think they quit? We all know what are the reasons, maybe. And being a mother of a special needs child, I know how much these mothers suffer to keep up with the work schedules. First of all, they don't work. They don't go out to work to manage the therapy appointments, doctor office schedules, and their schools and all that. It's always mother who makes a choice to quit. And when it comes to COVID, with the online school, these kids really won't sit in front of their laptops and go through the online school for hours together, right? So whichever the small percentage of special needs mothers going out and working, I think a lot of them have quit their jobs. My friends have quit their jobs. And of course, the single mothers, we need to put a spotlight on them as well, because if they have younger children, they are the ones who need to either step down from work, or they just take small paying jobs where the demands are less, the work schedules are not tight and all that. So they try to manage that. And whenever there is a COVID, and there is a general assumption that women are sitting in the couch and they're watching television nicely, and then enjoying the remote work environment, right? But in reality, that is not the way, right? So a lot of women, I have seen personally, they have their laptops on the kitchen, and they will be working on the laptop, they'll be cooking on the other side, taking care of the children. So women are natural multitaskers, and really COVID has brought best out of them, I would say. And this one point, Laila, I want to talk about it, and I think you also should talk about is the domestic harassment, right? So, and I didn't want to include one word in this presentation, which is a child abusement as well, right? So these children and women, usually they have their escape zone in the name of workplace and schools, and they just go out and at least they escape from that harassment at home to some extent. But COVID has like really made their lives worse. So 50% of these women and children don't even know that they can raise above the domestic harassment which is happening at home, either through their husband or spouses, or or fathers, anybody, right? So I think we need to really talk about those scenarios, maybe with the experts, and see what is the solution and all that stuff. And women in sales, right? So we are leaders, and there are like women in sales profession, and there are women in entrepreneurship or women in leadership. We know that sales and our work goes hand to hand, right? So everybody has to sell, all of us has to sell, try to improve our business. And I think this is a high demanding career, and COVID has impacted them so much. And my sincere request for you is to have another webinar with somebody who is expert on those areas, and I would love to hear their insights personally on how it is affecting them. So there are few solutions which I thought with my mind and heart. I'm sure there are more. But there has to be unbiased leadership teams, right? See, just imagine, I would like to bring an example here. So imagine we are having a video call, and there is a child who is playing back, or child who is crying, especially on important meetings, right, where the decisions are happening. I'm sure there is some kind of discomfort created there for that female, because of her child, right? I think that is the time where our colleagues and leadership have to step in and make her comfortable, and deal with that altogether, rather than keeping her in that discomfort zone, and make her to feel guilty and all that. And we all understand that if there is more diversity, then there is the inclusive work environment blossoms, right? So I think there are huge nice HR policies out there, but are these HR policies universal? Does one HR policy help every woman out there? No, it does not, right? So I think we should have some kind of customized policies for women in different layers, right? Like especially for the women with special needs children, or women with disabilities, or women with color and all that. Everybody has their own challenges with their personal ethnicity, their own race or anything, right? In a country like North America, where we have different women coming from various backgrounds working at one place, I think one HR policy will not work for them or their families or their careers. I think we all should sit and brainstorm on what can be done out there.
Mm.
And of course, there is skilling and upskilling, right? I think, and some of the things which I've put here, which is already happening, but this is, I mean, the mental health counseling session is also very important. I think a lot of people don't even know that it exists, and I think we need to help these new parents, new moms, even for that matter males, right? Like on the parenting or anything dealing with special cases in the family. I think that kind of health counseling is very important.
Swathi, I love, just to interject very, very quickly, that I love that you are talking about so many different facets of diversity. And, one of the things that we believe here at Dial incredibly strongly is diversity, inclusion, belonging, equality. It is a never ending evolutionary journey. When you speak there about, gender equality, and you mention the fact that there are so many different rich facets within that, and that we really should, and organizations should be really tailoring their approach dependent on those specific women. That is so true. And, just to, expand upon your, your rich example there, we recently launched our review, which looks at 10 holistic facets of diversity and inclusion. And those are, that some of them are visible. So, say the color of our skin, our race, our gender, physical disabilities and things like that. But there are so many disabilities and diversities that sit below the surface level that you mentioned there. And so, if, for example, a woman or a man, has, children to care for, and they also have other caring responsibilities as well, if they have parents who are not very well, if they require other flexibilities due to their partner or, others within their family, that need to be addressed, or even if they, as you mentioned before, suffer with mental health. And, mental health is such an important subject to discuss, which I think still to a degree is taboo, perhaps a little less so in America, and it'd be great to explore some of the cultural differences, but talking about mental health, certainly in the workplace, I think can give people that sense of fear. If my employer knows that I suffer with mental health, I could be under more scrutiny, or my employer could make it more difficult. And so there is that tendency to want to be able to hide these different aspects. And so, when you describe this, I just, I like how rich the description is, because ultimately, when I revert back to talking about this evolutionary process, there are, as you say, there's diversities within the diversities, within the diversities, within the diversities. You might have gender up here, but then there's gender and ethnicity and mental health and. You layer all of those different facets of intersectionality onto one another. Well, unfortunately, that picture is quite stark, isn't it? And it's, as you say, it's it's just so exciting to actually see how and where we can pull together to make a difference. And like you are, bravely and confidently going out there and finding other cheerleaders, other supporters that basically have had enough of doing it the way they used to do it. The time is now for genuine change. And certainly, if not now during COVID, then when? Hey.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I love to see those holistic points which you mentioned, but it is so true that diversity and inclusion is like evolutionary process, right? So what is correct in like this generation might not be in the next generation. So yeah, the constant research and development is important for all of us. So thank you, Leila. And I think we all will correlate with this topic, women entrepreneurs. We know that these women are also having poor mental health. I just want to talk about few examples here, like why a woman entrepreneur is prone to stress. One, if it is like mother and an entrepreneur, I'm sure every day is a roller coaster, obviously. I think the situations are improving in North America and Europe, but in India, I think there is still some kind of judgment going on women entrepreneurs. So women who want to venture onto new stuff are being seen as threat to the families, or threat to the children's career or parenting. That has to be removed, right? I mean, usually when women starts business, as such the numbers are very less, but when they start, people around us are really in that wait and watch mode to see if she becomes successful. Or I think there is some kind of instinct going on with them that she is going to fail for sure. But I think that wait and watch mode is there. I personally feel like that. What do you think, Laila? I want to hear from you on that.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, I relate to you very much. I feel like I'm speaking to a sister on the other side of the world here, because, running a business, it certainly isn't the walk in the park that I think is perceived from the outside. I often think, certainly when I'm talking to, others externally, or those with kind of big corporate jobs, that as an owner of a business and as a founder of a business, you must kind of either have, some kind of golden money tree growing into your back garden, and everything is great, and it's easy because you run your own company. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. On the flip side, to mention your point there, I think there is. I mean, I think there's a certain element of, people not believing until you've actually done it, that you can be successful. But hey, I think, clearly you feel this, and I certainly feel this too, is having that chip on your shoulder, in inverted commas, or having a chip on my shoulder, as I sometimes feel, is it makes me want to work even harder, even longer, to make sure that I can prove to others that this truly is possible and that it can make momentous change. Should that be the way that it is? I don't think so. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we started a business and everyone said, hurrah, that is going to be really, really, really successful. But I think there is definitely, a deeper need to want to prove one's self, if that makes sense. But I think it's the fire in our belly, and it's meeting people like yourself across the, other side of the world that inspires you and makes you want to keep on going. And, again, I know that you've got a fabulous team in Texas, and obviously we've got, great women like Vijaya who are tuning in today. And it's just, meeting people like that, and sharing those experiences, I think, it makes you stronger as a person, and makes you want to conquer all, so that actually, the future for our, well, I don't have children yet, but when I do, I have 2 dogs. They're like my children. But when you have children in the future, that it is perhaps, not perceived as such a challenge to them, and they actually do believe that they can go off and do whatever they want to do.
True, very true. See, when we can talk about like various stress here, right? Like which I mentioned, but I think we're okay to go through all this stress. Just that we need that kind of environment where they say us, it's okay. I mean, it's okay to feel such kind of emotional turbulence on every day, but you're going to be okay. It's okay. Feel the way you feel and be ready to fail and all that. I think that kind of support is what we need, rather than rather than trying to wait and watch mode, or or judging on the profession we have chosen and all that. So that is what makes us to feel mentally healthy and just work comfortably.
Just picking up very quickly on when you were talking about your story to start with, and being a woman in sales. It's interesting. I'd be curious to hear whether you've had anyone say to you before, "Ooh, a woman in sales, well, that's quite an unusual choice," because I recall some earlier years of mine and being in sales and being in recruitment and things like this, and people would say, hey, you're quite bossy, or things like this, and you kind of think, well, if I was a guy, would you be saying things like that? I'm not sure. Is there anything wrong with knowing your own mind and being confident with that. You know, actually, my you know, my counter to people who would say things like that would always be, actually, you know, whilst women may be perceived as more emotional and things like this, I think that is such a rich benefit to have strong emotional intelligence, to really be able to connect with the individuals to whom you're selling with or collaborating with. I think it makes a huge difference. You know, it draws it more towards that consultative and that relationship approach, as opposed to that you know, old school transactional sales approach. And so, you know, I would always say, I think, you know, to women that want to have careers in sales, it is an incredible way to build confidence and to build relationships and to really be able to connect with people on another level. You know, I do believe that the leaders of the future, you know, whilst people worry about automation and digital is going to take away our jobs and things like that, well, actually, the one thing that cannot be eliminated at this point in time is the real human touch, the real emotional touch. You know, that is something that cannot be automated, cannot be yet done by Alexa or any of these digital gadgets that we have. It is something which is real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, frankly, women in sales is like a whole new skill set, right? Like you should have combination of all your regular skills as well as the skill to sell, and being able to adopt the timings, and being able to, I mean, we need to keep networking with the people, and we should be readily available with our solutions for the questions raised by client. We should constantly upgrading our skills. So I think that is one of the most stressful job is what I think in my personally.
And
Yeah.
Swathi, for people who are listening in, because I think, you know, the vast majority of us, whether we confess to it or not, you know, have experienced stress or mental health issues. You know, I certainly do. I wonder, any of your top tips, and with your speaking to, you know, so many passionate women that really want to do great things, you know, what are some of your top tips? And when you've had, you know, times where the chips have been down and you've really, you know, kind of felt the world is against you, how have you picked yourself back up again and gone back out there, you know, and conquered those, you know, those stressful situations, and kind of conquered those demons, so to speak?
I think a couple of things, right? When I started the when I took the entrepreneurship, and I was a special needs child mother. First thing which I personally had was self motivation, right? Self motivation will keep you going, and there are many times like I search Google and I'll ask like, Google, give me a motivation quote for today. I know Google has never given me one, but and once you start having the self motivation as your basic quality, next level the team comes in place, right? So today my team, I think they are like backbone of whatever I do, right? So they just understand me to the core and they'll help me to achieve my passion. I think as a team, we all have like one vision and one passion, which I'm very grateful for. And of course the family, and I have some cool mentors like who understands and everything. So I was able to build all that only with one factor, which is self motivation and risk taking ability, right? So that helped me a lot.
That is a great answer. And, you know, I think to anyone out there, whether you're building a business, whether you are growing your team and you work within a large business, having the right team around you makes all the
Yeah.
difference, doesn't it? And if they're the wrong people, I think, you know, you shouldn't be scared to, you know, to move away. You know, when you have that right team, you know, I was saying this to our team at Dial during our strategy day, actually, just last week, and I was getting really emotional actually about it, as well as you know, I love them so much. You know, I love them
Yeah.
so much, and you know, I feel like, you know, they're like another family, if that makes sense. And you
Yeah.
know, you have that kind of relationship where you do anything for them, and you know that they would you know, do things for you. It makes you want to get out of bed to go to work every single day, because you know, you love the people that you work with. You
Yeah.
know, I heard there's a pretty famous quote that I've heard many times, especially within my formative career, you know, within recruitment and exec search, is they say that people leave, you know, people don't, you know, leave companies. they leave bosses. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that is so, so, so true.
Yeah.
So, so, so true.
It happened to me in the past. Like I quit my micromanagement boss because then I looked at that quote and I said, wow, this is real, It happened for me as well. But I'll tell you what, on a lighter note, Laila, there is a lot of drama in my team. Because there are women, most of them are women, apart from their skill, attitude, their work, passion, there is a lot of drama also. I'm dealing with that currently. uh, and so moving on, this is about SheJobs, right? With all this experience, we have started a women-focused job portal. I'll just be very simple in this aspect. So we want to provide the diversified workforce to the organizations. I'm sure every organization is are taking steps to be diversified, and then they want to hire women with color, underrepresented minorities, and they are trying their best. But I think SheJobs will be one tool which can help them to reach those diversity metrics, is what my vision is currently. And as I told you, diversity starts from home, and our sister company is already 95% women workforce. So I think that was a great starting point for me to start this. And along with the regular ethnicity background or color or anything, I also want to bring these kind of women into light, where I urge organizations to create special quotas for these people. In that way, we encourage these women to come and work and prove their abilities and to be able to land in their dream job. So as such, we discussed about customized HR policies. I think the evolution which is taking place currently and in future generations might help these women to come back to the work.
We just pause on that last slide just for one moment, because I mean, first and foremost, you're preaching to the converted here, because I absolutely, fundamentally to my core agree that we need to be looking at the diversities within diversities. And for those that are thinking here, why? We understand from a moral imperative that this is the right thing to do as a human being. This is the right thing to do, because it makes a difference to wider society. But actually, there is the underlying fact that this is great and commercially beneficial to organizations.
Yeah.
In times where our future generations of leaders are factually more keen on working for organizations that have a sense of purpose, that want to do business for good, that have got a good social footprint, well, tapping into talent that has come from places, which organizations wouldn't necessarily think of, is really strong commercially. There's so much rich talent that is out there that would not necessarily be in the catchment pool, to be on, say your graduate programs and things like that. Actually, we've seen so many, and I won't start re-quoting now, but there's so many statistics and metrics out there that say, these minorities within their different facets of, the socioeconomic background, for example, really do, improve business performance. And again, I'm sure bring lots and lots of other skills. You mentioned there, domestic abuse survivors, which I think in into itself, it's, often an uncomfortable subject to speak about, but actually, the trauma that these women, and even men, that they have suffered has given them, other skills and another level of resilience, another lens on the world with which to actually look at problem solving and innovation.
Yes, yeah, very true. I think I'll just finish with one point. Like, how many of us will consider those resumes or profiles which has a career gap, right? Because of the pregnancy, sabbatical, or anything to take care of elders in the family. I think that has to stop. That really has to stop. That's the agenda of SheJobs. I think that comes with various reskilling and upskilling programs in organizations or in general is what I'm trying to put a word to for the organization through SheJobs. Yeah. So I'm done with the presentation.
Oh, Swathi, thank you so much for that. And it was a brilliant presentation. And I would love people to revisit certain areas. I know I'm going to be revisiting certain areas of that presentation because there were so many different bullet points, so many different pieces of advice, so many different recommendations, which frankly you could do a whole presentation on just some of those slides into themselves. So, thank you for the whistle stop tour and kind of holistic overview of not only what SheJobs is about, but also the real tangible benefits for businesses. I can see, and forgive my technical knowledge and know-how here, I can see that we've got a couple of people with their hands up, and so what I would say is we're going to open the floor now to take some questions for Swathi based upon the presentation, or you could be asking questions about Swathi's kind of personal experience and any recommendations to be able to coax employers into actually looking at more innovative ways to source their talent. So please do start to ask questions there in the Q&A or in the chat. And so I think we've got one actually for from Baku here. And so I think Rebecca's just encouraged him to pop that into the chat, because I think we have got a couple there in emails as well. But just before that, whilst we're waiting for Baku to post his question in the chat, we have got a question from one of our nearest and dearest, because we both really love her to pieces, is Vijaya, asking, what are the SheJobs goals for the next 5 years? What are they looking like? What's that kind of step change over the next 5 years, Swathi?
I think I should ask the same question to her. So basically what we are as a team, we are envisioning SheJobs as a platform to connect various women out there. Of course, job portal is one thing, but we want to make it as a network where women come discuss and find solutions, find peers, find training programs, or if there are any new innovations by women entrepreneurs, we want to have them there. And we just want to have like a great platform for those women, especially who had the career breaks, to as a we want SheJobs to evolve as a hope for such women, right? So that is what the next 5 years.
Excellent. So I had a number of emails, and I also was incredibly curious myself, is how does it actually all work? So, for example, even us as Dial Global, and we were having a conversation actually as a team during our team meeting, looking about how we can, start to expand. Now we, whilst we've got really great global reach, we are still only, handful of individuals, and we really do see our future growth being in line with acquiring talent that is looking for flexibility, and of course it's very in line with the brand. But hypothetically, say let's use us as an example. We Dial, as a growing company, really want to look at hiring flexible female or male employees to be able to support us when it comes to our sales and our commercial development. What would you then recommend, and how would we go about trying to find that talent through your platform?
So basically, when a woman enters SheJobs, when she's trying to register her profile, there is a category which she can choose from there, right? It is, of course, an optional field where she can choose whether she's from a mother of a special needs child, or she is a domestic harassment survivor, or a transgender for that matter. So that gives you a category of resumes where your passion is involved with, right? Like if your organization is more autism focused, then you can get such women, you can give them opportunity to work. And we also have a specific category for those women who have a gap in their career. In that way, they don't need to like really change their resume or anything, and organizations can hire them and then train them. Or even we are also connected with some training platforms who can help these women to get reskilled on some technologies and all that stuff. So I think you can just log in and you can post your job, and even when you're searching the candidates, you can put a specific category and those resumes will come up for you. So we are constantly updating our database, right? So we are trying to connect with the universities to get those fresh grads and all that, and women organizations, or women in color and all that. So I think It's everyday process.
This makes sense. So it's actually it's an innovative organization and a platform, which is also a job board ultimately. So if I, as the employer, you know, have a particular need for someone who really understands the, you know, the idiosyncratic details associated with a certain type of disability, for example, and so we're really, really keen to, you know, look at someone who has expertise within, you know, autism or certain invisible diversities like mental health. We can
Yes.
go on to SheJobs. We can, you know, search our criteria, the skills that we are looking for in terms of those areas, and we then will be presented with a number of candidates who would be either passionate within that area or would have knowledge in that area, or who would, you know, meet through other means those criteria with which we've then selected, we've self-selected.
Yes, and we as a startup, we also personally work with the HR teams or talent acquisition teams to, you know, fulfill their specific needs on any particular technology or any area. We can align with their goals for like 2021, 2022, whatever it is, and we'll make those women ready for them to reach their
Wow.
diversity metrics.
Wow. So you do outreach programs as well then. That is really, really good to know. And so ultimately then if we said, okay, so our next year strategy is to grow by double digits, double digit growth in terms of revenue and resource in number of different areas, we could say, hey, you know, Swathi and team at SheJobs, we are looking for, you know, a number of individuals to support us with this strategy. And so actually you would be consultative with us and say, okay, so based upon the fact that you want to grow by X and based upon the fact that you might need these certain skills, we would then suggest, you know, that we're looking for X, Y, and Z, and you could then outreach through your platform to try and attract the very best talent that would suit our specific needs.
Yes, yes, because that is very important, right? Every organization have various needs and, you know, various skill sets which they are looking for, or they're feeling they're having trouble on those. I think SheJobs can fill that gap for them. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And how about any of the, and this is, you know, again, it was another email that we had, you know, was, you know, what have been some of the biggest barriers that you have faced in terms of, convincing is probably the wrong word, but what have been some of the biggest barriers that you faced in terms of, you know, explaining to organizations that they need to get involved with SheJobs? Have you had any pushback from organizations? And if so, what have those challenges been?
Yeah, so in North America, there is a, it's quite get into legal when we talk about gender discrimination, right? So that's why we cannot completely say that we are exclusive to women, but we are women focused as such. But even men are welcome in our site, right? So so only that part. But apart from that, I think whoever I spoke to have really welcomed SheJobs, and they really want to be associated with it. Of course, they're already associated with some of those organizations who can um, uh, who are some non-profit organizations like who can help them in finding some women candidates out of colleges and all that. But I think SheJobs is specific with the enormous recruitment experience we have through our sister company or by myself. I think they're very much confident that we can give them those candidates, especially when there is a combination of 2 or 3 skills required, right? So now nothing is like great job requirement. So it comes with like 4 or 5 technologies and 2 or 3 certifications and all that. I think SheJobs comes in and fills those gaps in that area where they can find those specific candidates and especially women in leadership, right? So that is a real challenge for the organization. So that is one plus point for us.
Well, you're very modest there, Swathi, because I think there's multiple plus points. And I'm going to do my best to summarize what was a very in-depth presentation now for everyone who is here. If you've got any last questions, please do ask them because we will be closing in around 5 minutes. But what I'll say, Swathi, is first and foremost, you have been absolutely superb. You know, your personality, your vibrance, your genuine passion and your heart really shines through. you in everything that you speak and each one of those slides, which you brought so beautifully to life for us today. I know that we've got a number of the Dial team who are really keen to see you in action, and so I know we've got a number of them who are also tuning in, and I can see we've got a number of your team and many others on the call today. The things that really stood out for me, Swathi, from hearing you speak is not only that you have this lived experience, and so you've utilized that lived experience, those true, real, impactful things that have happened to you on life's path, and you bravely pushed the boat out and started an organization which actually is making a difference. It's not an organization that is being born out of simply an idea, but it's been born out of a genuine need from that experience that you've had. And so, I guess some of the top tips, I particularly loved that top tip slide. I thought that was great. I wrote down a couple of things here which really resonated to me, and they were, you as a person, you've clearly followed your instincts, been brave enough to put your head above the parapet. You've welcomed everyone from, frankly, many different cultural walks of life from all around the world to really drive this movement, and it's a mutually beneficial movement. It's a really, it's a movement that not only serves the individual purposes of those who are getting involved, but it also benefits business and wider society. So it's not just a one facet beneficial business model. Actually, it impacts the wider community. It allows organizations to tap into talent that they wouldn't perhaps otherwise have looked at. It contributes towards the corporate social responsibility and the future ethos of organizations, which is really important, in particular as the metrics say, to our future generations of leaders that want to see business for good. I think when you talked about your story as well, it's just such a candid story, to work through something with with a child that has mental health, to balance all of these different plates up, and also to grow a thriving business that now has multiple people in it. I think it's something really to celebrate. Surrounding yourself by a team that inspires you, who are mostly female, and I'm sure sometimes have their elements of drama. Actually, the longer term goal is that everybody wins, don't they? Everybody wins, and we'd just love to be able to support you in the journey. We'd love to do what we possibly can to promote SheJobs, to promote all the other initiatives that you are running. And so I know this is not going to be it's not going to be the last time that we meet. It's one of many times that we will meet. For anyone that is having a hard time as well, I will say is, the sense of community and belonging that one feels. And, I certainly feel it just being here today with many people who are here is being part of something that's bigger than you. It's being part of something where, others care about the bigger future. And, you almost feel a sense of connection that, I don't know where you could get elsewhere. Peer-to-peer learning is, I think what we really should be harnessing and fostering moving forwards. And so you're not just creating a business, you're creating a movement. You're creating a movement for change that allows everyone to get involved, where ultimately every voice is heard, and that's what it's all about. And I can see some messages here as well saying, future captions, hashtag women's career paths, SheJobs, lots of positivity coming through. We are going to as well, we've had a few questions here from Andrew Jackson. Sorry, Andrew, I missed you there. Don't want you to think that I've forgotten about you. So Andrew's saying, are there any other women focused job portals, and what's so different about yours? Well, Andrew, I'll let Swathi answer that, but I think this one is supremely different because, as we said, it is it's born out of that lived experience, and it doesn't just look at a platform of women only. It is looking at the diversities within the diversities and enabling the functionality at both the candidate end and also the client end. As you said before, Swathi, allowing the communication and the actual support through that peer-to-peer learning network, right?
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Leila, for whatever you mentioned. Andrew, thank you for the question. I think there are There are a couple of job portals, but specific to a particular ethnicity, right? Like or color. Like there is something called pro Hispanic or something for only for Hispanic people, and there is something for black for blacks, but not like for women who are dealing with different layers in women, right? So which I mentioned, I think ours is first of its kind.
Yeah. So ultimately what you're saying there, Swathi, and I can comment on this one, Andrew, and it's a great question, is my background is recruitment. And so when you look at, your standard job boards, you're often looking at a very certain type of search criteria. And so Swathi, where you mentioned there, when it comes to search criteria, you're looking for purely certain skills. And I think ultimately not all skills are skills that would be mentioned in a classic CV. I mean, I had this conversation the other day with a friend of mine and said it would be interesting if we actually eliminated the use of CVs and we had video interviews and we did things based upon some of the interpersonal skills and the invisible skills. I think that the clear difference for me when it comes to, the SheJobs board is that you're actually yourself selecting in terms of those areas. It's a safe space ultimately. I look at a lot of the generic job boards out there, and if I was well, I am an ethnic minority individual that does suffer with mental health, I certainly would not feel comfortable in putting my personal details on there because they are so broad brush and generic. I think the unique piece about SheJobs is actually it's made by people who care about this and they've got that lived experience. And so, would I feel safe to self-select the fact that I am a Chinese female that suffers with mental health issues, that wants to work flexible hours because I have, children? I don't, but if I did, it's that safe community. I have two dogs. They're my fur babies, so practically children. But hopefully that answers the question there, Andrew. But we welcome any other questions. We are running out of time, everyone. And Swathi, I did have some other questions on email that I've not had the chance to unfortunately ask. And so, what I will say to everyone is, if you haven't connected with Swathi online already, please do so. Our brilliant team at Dial will be pulling out all of the key learning points from today's session. So in the show notes, you'll be able to view those. You can get holidays in the community, and you can also download Swathi's presentation as well. So everything will be available on demand. If you're worried that you didn't write it down, you're worried that you missed it, don't worry. It is there. It's all been saved and recorded. And the second we've edited it up, it'll be available in the community. And I'm sure Swathi will be sharing it far and wide as well. You can visit us as ever at www.dialglobal.org. And we'll put all the information in there for you. We'll put a lot of links in there as well, so you can check out SheJobs, look at how, if you are a candidate, apply to be found a role and linked up with the right employer by Swathi and her team. And again, you can contact her directly as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Leila.